Hello and very warm welcome to Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. Following are the news headlines which have been reported by American, European, Asian, Canadian, African, and Australian news channels and AFP, AP, Reuters, news agencies. So now please let's watch the news headlines.
Tonight on ABC News Live Prime, a shocking act of political violence. Charlie Kirk, conservative political activist, shot and killed while speaking at a college campus event. The founder of Turning Point USA, a conservative student organization, he had close ties to the Republican Party and the First Family. The president posting the great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. His influence on Capitol Hill strong, lawmakers observing a moment of silence amid all the tributes. And yet more gun violence today, this time at a high school outside of Denver that left 3 students critically wounded with several more hurt, including the shooter. We have the reaction to all of today's violence from the nation's capital to Main Street, starting right now on Prime.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Lindsay Davis.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Lindsay Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We begin with a horrific act of political violence, the shooting death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. The commentator and outspoken co-founder of Turning Point USA was shot just after noon local time while he was speaking at an event at Utah Valley University. One single shot rang out and panicked students ran for cover.
And let's be advised, UVU in Orem has had an active shooter at the Charlie Kirk event. We're getting several calls. We're trying to get more information.
After questioning and releasing a person of interest, law enforcement sources say a manhunt for the suspected shooter is still underway. The 31-year-old father of 2 was on the first stop of his American comeback tour, speaking on campuses across the country when he was struck in the neck.
Like that, you just hear the gunshot and that's hurting. Like, you just see his neck just like open up and there's just like so much blood.
President Trump mourned Kirk's death on social media, writing that Kirk had the heart of the youth in the United States and ordered all American flags lowered to half-mast. The House held a moment of silence in his honor, and Utah's governor called it a political assassination in a broken country.
Nothing I say can unite us as a country. Nothing I can say right now can fix what is broken. Nothing I can say can bring back Charlie Kirk. Our hearts are broken.
Kirk was an ardent supporter of President Trump and his agenda and a force within the MAGA community. His presence had divided the UVU campus. His political beliefs long sparking controversies on topics like gun violence, DEI, and the transgender community. Moments ago, President Trump spoke out about today's tragedy. We'll bring you that in a moment. But first, here's ABC's chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman.
Tonight, horror on a college campus in Orem, Utah. Charlie Kirk, one of the most prominent conservative activists in the country, with close ties to President Trump, shot and killed as he addressed a crowd of hundreds. The event billed as the American Comeback Tour, a lively discussion of freedom.
Breaking news as we come on the air, the horror on an American campus. Conservative activist Charlie Kirk shot and killed during a campus event. The horrific images coming in. Kirk, just 31, a husband and father, killed in front of a crowd at Utah Valley University. The school saying the gunman fired a single shot. The panicked crowd running from the scene. The difficult and chilling images tonight showing Kirk being carried to an SUV, rushed to the hospital. Before the event, the founder of Turning Point USA throwing hats to the crowd. Kirk welcomed heated debates and was taking questions when that shot was fired. Tonight, President Trump announcing Kirk's death, posting the great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. The FBI and ATF on the scene. Matt Gutman standing by with new reporting. Pierre Thomas, Mary Bruce, and John Carl, who just spoke with President Trump. Also on this Wednesday night, the school shooting outside Denver. Police racing to the scene, students critically wounded, the suspect also believed to be a student. Tonight, President Trump asking what's with Russia, violating Poland's airspace with drones. Poland and NATO scrambling fighter jets to shoot down those Russian drones. The president posting online, quote, "Here we go." Arthur Raddatz just back from Ukraine with late reporting. Also tonight, President Trump furious over Israel's failed strike on Hamas leaders inside Qatar, a key U.S. ally. The president saying he is very unhappy about it. Back to the U.S. tonight, the suspect charged with murdering a young Ukrainian refugee on a commuter train behind bars. What the suspect is now allegedly saying about the attack. President Trump tonight calling for the death penalty. Also, a dramatic scene in court, a suspect lunging at the judge. A major headline overseas tonight, the royal family summit. Prince Harry back with his father, King Charles, and what Prince Harry said about his father afterward. And tonight here we remember a beloved actress. Americans loved that sitcom, and she was famous for 3 words. From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World.
Are the co-host of Outnumbered, Kayleigh McEnany, the co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend, Charlie Hurd, both friends of the show. Kayleigh, we'll start with you and get your reaction to all of it. We all loved Charlie. Everybody loved Charlie.
We all knew him. We all loved him deeply. I knew him for 13 years, Sean. I received a text message from him yesterday when I was on the 5, and my takeaway from that exchange, it was brief, was just his absolute love for his family. I met Charlie when he was 18 years old. I was 6 years older at the time, and I remember he would go on Stuart Varney's show, and then I would go on, and we were the 2 millennial voices that would be on that program. And one day he said, "Hey, let's meet up. I want to tell you about something I'm starting." And I met with him at a restaurant called Fresh & Co. right by Fox, and he told me about Turning Point, and we couldn't imagine what that would become from that point on, this young man with an idea that became a movement. But Sean, my takeaway with Charlie is, we talk about left and right, and Charlie would point right, but more than that, Charlie pointed up. He had this authentic, real love for Jesus Christ, and his conservative philosophy was an outgrowth of that. But he would go to these campuses. I would speak at his women's event, and he would speak to lonely people who were lost on social media, felt empty, felt depressed on college campuses, and he would give them hope in Jesus Christ. And the last thing I would say, Sean, is I know that I know that I know that I know this. Charlie Kirk did not die today. Yes, he left his body, but I guarantee you, when he took his last breath, the first words that he heard were Jesus Christ saying, "Well done, my good and faithful servant." I'm thinking of Erica. She's a beautiful, beautiful mom, a beautiful woman, beautiful writer. I'm thinking of his kids, but I know where Charlie Kirk is today, and he is very, very much alive.
Nobody can say it any better. Well said, Kayleigh, and I agree with everything you said. Charlie, you knew him well. We knew him well. I just hate the fact that evil took him today. I hate the fact that his children will not know the Father, as Melania eloquent. I hate the fact that this seems to be planned and orchestrated in a political assassination. That just wanted open debate, and he did so with a smile.
Peace with him, didn't find him threatening. He would do these events not because he hated people, as Kayleigh just beautifully said, because he loved people, and he loved people who disagreed with him. And he didn't go to these things to try to
This Wednesday night, a prominent conservative American activist shot at a crowded public event.
All of a sudden I hear
unprecedented violation.
Pipe dream. The Prime Minister prepares to announce new projects. The red planet.
Are we truly alone in the universe?
NASA finds evidence of life on Mars.
Global National with Donna Friesen. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining me. In with breaking news tonight, Charlie Kirk has been killed. The American conservative activist was shot in the neck while attending a crowded political event at a university in Utah. News of his death was confirmed first by the U.S. president. The 31-year-old father was a close ally to Donald Trump and a major figure in the MAGA movement, particularly among youth. Utah's governor calls it a political assassination. Jackson Prosco is following these breaking developments from Washington. So, Jackson, what have you learned?
Well, Jeff, the conservatives
speaking this afternoon to a crowd mostly of students outdoors at Utah Valley University when a single gunshot rang out. Kirk was actually being asked by students about mass shootings in America in that moment before he was struck in the neck and collapsed on stage. I want to show you a video that Kirk himself posted just minutes before the shooting. You can see the stage he was sitting on and the size of the crowd he was speaking to. There were about 3,000 people in attendance. We understand from police that that single shot was fired from another building about 200 meters away. As you mentioned, the news was announced by President Donald Trump on social media. He's an extremely close ally of Kirk's, and he said in part, quote, "No one understood the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He loved and admired by all of us. And now no longer it are clear that this was a political assassination, but details are still sparse.
Nothing I say can unite us as a country. Now what is broken. Nothing I can say can bring back Charlie Kirk. Our hearts are broken.
And Jackson, just how influential was Charlie Kirk in American politics?
You know, an absolutely massive voice in the MAGA movement, especially amongst college-age conservatives, the Gen Z crowd. Kirk was
Hello, good morning. It's 6 o'clock. On today's show, a dark moment for America. President Trump condemns the killing of one of his most prominent supporters, MAGA icon Charlie Kirk.
Plus, MPs want Peter Mandelson back in the UK to face questions over his alleged support for convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
It's Thursday, September 11th. The moment that conservative activist Charlie Kirk was shot on stage at a rally in Utah.
Violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree.
The gunman is believed to have fired once from the roof of a nearby building. A manhunt is still underway. Also ahead, the Prime Minister faces growing calls to sack Peter Mandelson as Britain's ambassador to Washington after more of his messages to Jeffrey Epstein are leaked. Politicians clash with the public in Sky's immigration debate after a summer of discontent. Tea with the King, Prince Harry has his first face-to-face meeting with his father in 19 months. And in sport, South Africa defeat England in their first T20 international in a match that was reduced to just 12 overs due to rain. Hello, good morning. US President Donald Trump has described the shooting of conservative activist Charlie Kirk as a dark moment for America. The MAGA icon emboldened the populist appeal of the social media age and was one of the president's most prominent supporters. He was shot dead on stage at a rally in Utah. A manhunt is underway to find the killer. Our US correspondent David Blevins has our first report.
This was the shot that claimed the life of Charlie Kirk.
Oh my God.
Sparking pandemonium on a college campus where he'd been speaking.
There's been a shooting. There's been shot.
Hundreds fled in terror.
Oh my gosh!
A single shot thought to have been fired from a rooftop by someone in dark clothing.
Oh my gosh!
Amid the panic, a body carried from the scene. The high-profile conservative influencer had just answered a question about gun violence in America.
This is Asia Now.
Good afternoon. It is 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 a.m. in New Delhi, 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Yasmin Yonkers at this hour. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung vows to achieve unity and end the country's political divide on his 100th day in office. Boosting the economy and improving ties with the North also high on his agenda. The Nepali army moves to restore order after days of mass protests plunged the country into crisis. Demonstrators backed the former Chief Justice Sushila Karki to serve as interim leader. And torrential rains in Indonesia's resort island of Bali kill at least 8, with several others still missing. Officials say more than 100 neighborhoods are completely submerged. is underway as free speech champion Charlie Kirk is shot dead at a university campus in Utah.
President Trump leads tributes in what he describes as a dark moment for America and warns of the seismic effects this killing will have around the world.
It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible.
As authorities search for the shooter, there are now concerns over a spiral in political violence as fears are raised over the safety of free speech.
Well, reaction has been coming in overnight, and we'll have the very latest for you throughout the morning as we come to terms with not only a dark day for the United States, but a dark day for the world.
Pressure on Lord Mandelson to resign. Leaked emails reveal the British ambassador to the United States advised Jeffrey Epstein to fight for early release after the financier was convicted of child prostitution.
The Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk has requested to invoke NATO's Article 4 after Russian drones are shot down in Poland.
Bridget Phillipson emerges as the frontrunner in the race to find Labour's next deputy leader. But we're asking, who should replace Angela Rayner?
And a day that shocked the world, changing the course of global history, today celebrities take to the trading floor to raise money in memory of those who lost their lives in the horrific attacks of September the 11th.
And sport this morning, England lose their first T20 match to South Africa, which is more of a damp squib T5 in the rain, which I will explain later. British Olympic swimming medalist is to controversially join the enhanced games. Another thing I'll explain later. And Sebastian Coe's Keely Hodgkinson can become Britain's greatest ever middle distance runner.
Hello there, good morning. A brighter day for most, but still with a risk of showers. Stay tuned and I have all the details.
It's just gone 6:02. I'm Ellie Costello.
And I'm Cameron Walker, and this is TV News Breakfast.
Justice in the country. Still, these responsibilities of work that are kept.
Great, so I mean,
Hear the views that matter in Tête-à-Tête every week on France 24 and France24.com.
Good morning, I'm Oliver Ferry, and this is Daybreak on France 24. Here are this morning's headlines. A manhunt is declared in the state of Utah after the shooting dead of far-right influencer Charlie Kirk. The 31-year-old was killed at an event at Utah Valley University. He was close to Donald Trump and was credited with building support for the president among young Americans. Dozens are killed in Israeli strikes on Yemen. In response, Israel says to a Houthi drone attack on Ramon airport on Sunday. The strikes were reported in the capital Sanaa and in the northern Al Jawf region. Poland warns Europe is inching towards open conflict with Russia after Polish forces shot down what it said were Russian drones on its territory. Prime Minister Donald Tusk activated NATO's Article 4 to consult with fellow NATO members. Russia denies targeting Poland. And coming up in the press review, English sparkling wine has dethroned French champagne for the first time to win the top award in the International Wine Challenge.
This is DW News, and these are our top stories. American conservative youth activist and influencer Charlie Kirk has been shot and killed while speaking at a university in the US state of Utah. Kirk was hit in the neck by a single shot and died of his injuries in hospital. He was a major ally of US President Donald Trump, who described Kirk as legendary. Poland says it shot down Russian drones that it says repeatedly violated its airspace during an attack on Ukraine. Prime Minister Donald Tusk described it as an act of aggression. He said it had pushed the country closest to open conflict since the Second World War. Hundreds of protesters have been arrested in France on new Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu's first day in office. The demonstrations against the government's proposed economic reforms were called by the leftist collective Block Everything. They've disrupted transport, education and other services despite the deployment of tens of thousands of police officers. This is DW News from Berlin. There's more news on our website, dw.com.
You're hearing. My hearing.
Mother and Son starts September 24 on ABC TV and ABC iView.
Today, a Sydney childcare worker charged with producing child abuse material with more than 500,000 images seized. AU Vice-Chancellor Genevieve Bell resigns following staff cuts and allegations of poor governance. A manhunt underway for the killer of a conservative American commentator shot dead on a Utah University campus. And at least 14 dead after torrential rain hits Bali. Rescue efforts are underway to find 6 people still missing. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Ross Childs. We're going straight to Canberra Live now, where AU Chancellor Julia Bishop is speaking.
Returning to her academic role at the School of Cybernetics after a period of study leave. These are conversations that I'm not going to entertain. It's a matter of respect. It was a very hard decision for her, and I think if you read her statement, you'll see that she took a very difficult decision in the interests of the university, and we accept that decision that she's made. As Australia's first female Chancellor, I was indeed very proud that distinguished Professor Genevieve Bell became our 13th Vice-Chancellor. She's a distinguished academic and she'll be returning to the School of Cybernetics. And I think that sends a very powerful message that she is and remains part of the ANU family. And I
The damage was most intense in the provinces of Aguatim and Mol Ibrahim in Al Khuz after severe thunderstorms and heavy rains caused flash floods in valleys such as Gigaya and Barja. The floods swept away cars, submerged homes in the village of Agni, disrupted traffic between Marrakesh and Mol Ibrahim, and damaged shops and residences. Authorities mobilized equipment to carry out emergency repairs and works. On Sunday and Monday, there were thunderstorms. Now we're taking the necessary measures and precautions. We are preparing the equipment from the administration. Flash flooding was also felt in the Imli region, where torrents carrying massive boulders and tree trunks devastated crops and washed away entire sections of roads.
Islamist militants have escalated their attacks on civilians in Niger since March 2025, Human Rights Watch found in a new report on Wednesday. The NGO said the Islamic State in the Sahel province executed more than 127 civilians in 5 attacks in Niger's western Tillaberi region. The extremist group reportedly also looted homes and burned them to the ground. During one attack on the Menza village in June, fighters killed over 70 worshippers in a mosque and wounded at least 20 others. Human Rights Watch said these acts violated international humanitarian law and were apparent war crimes. Several witnesses argued Niger's army did not do enough to prevent these attacks or defend villagers, despite their requests for protection. The NGO also said that it shared its findings with the Nigerian Justice Ministry in August, but did not receive a response. Niger's military junta has been in power since July 2023, when it overthrew President Mohamed Bazoum in a coup. Military leaders have vowed to restore security in areas affected by Islamist armed groups, but the Islamic State in the Sahel province has killed about 1,600 civilians in the past 2 years, according to the ACLED NGO. It would have been his first ever official visit to France. Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko has cancelled his planned attendance at an investor forum organised by the BPI France Bank in Paris on September 23rd. In a statement published last week, the Prime Minister's office said a scheduling conflict prevented Sonko from attending. He said a member of his government would represent him during the forum instead. This announcement showed speculation, as bilateral relations between France and Senegal are in the process of being redefined. But in his statement, Sonko confirmed he would soon welcome his French counterpart for an intergovernmental seminar in Dakar. Although he will not be visiting France, the Prime Minister maintains a busy international schedule. He is currently on an official visit to the United Arab Emirates, and he will then travel to Italy over the weekend to meet the Senegalese diaspora in Europe.
Some Ugandans have expressed support for the ongoing legal proceedings against the rebel leader Joseph Kony by the International Criminal Court, also known as ICC. Kony is facing 39 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity as the fugitive leader of the Lord Resistance Army, or LRA, which terrorized northern Uganda for decades.
the direct victims, the people that lost lives, people that lost limbs, land, and livelihood, are directly affected and directly are invested in this trial. For them, it is a pursuit of justice that has eluded them for a very long time. They believe that maybe justice may be served. Maybe Joseph Kony may one day be found.
Tibi Gombe, now a Ugandan diplomat, has been credited as the person who helped stop the war in northern Uganda through her peace negotiations with Kony.
Some of the victims who would have wanted to know what happened, to get justice, are dead. Some of them had given up. So that is why I started with the usual saying that justice delayed is justice denied. This should have taken place much, much earlier.
Grace Masiko, a former journalist and now security analyst, said that the Lord Resistance Army has not been completely wiped out and could still pose a danger to Ugandan security.
Well, first of all, the threat is still there because we don't know where they are. And we may not even give an exact figure for how many they are. Even the family members that have returned to Uganda cannot tell exactly where they last communicated, including his children who say they last communicated with Joseph Kony 10 years ago. So someone still in the jungles 10 years ago can still be as resolute as someone has just vanished today.
Kony was thrust into the global spotlight in the 2012 when a video about his crime went viral. Despite the attention and international efforts to capture him, he remains at large.
Charlie Kirk assassinated while speaking on a... Tonight, conservative activist Charlie Kirk assassinated while speaking on a college campus, and this just in, word of a person of interest now in custody. The conservative commentator shot while talking in front of a large crowd at Utah Valley University. Witnesses describing a bloody and graphic scene. People fleeing in terror after Kirk was struck by a bullet near his neck.
Blood shooting out of his neck, hit the floor, and we just had him bolted out of there.
Moments ago, law enforcement saying a person of interest now in custody. Political leaders from both parties condemning the assassination, the latest act of chilling political violence in America. President Trump posting he was loved and admired by all, especially me. Kirk was known for his often inflammatory takes on charged political issues. Meet the press moderator Kristen Welker reporting on how Kirk helped get President Trump elected and brought a massive wave of young people into the MAGA movement. Also tonight, students in critical condition after being shot at a high school in Colorado not far from Columbine. And new fears the war with Russia could be expanding beyond Ukraine. NATO helping shoot down Russian drones inside Poland. The Prime Minister there saying the country is closer to war than any point since World War II. Nightly News starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Maurice Dubois.
I'm John Dickerson.
Conservative commentator Charlie Kirk was shot and killed today during an appearance at Utah University.
Crowd on the campus when he was shot in the neck area.
Kirk was the co-founder of the conservative youth organization Turning Day. He had a popular podcast and millions of followers on social media. The Trump credited him with voting young voters in the 2024 election. This evening, the president broke the news of Kirk's death, calling him a truly great American patriot, and flags flew half of the White House.
Just on text and leads us off tonight. Scott, what have you learned?
Several hours after the shooting, it's still unclear who pulled the trigger. The FBI director gave shifting information tonight, at first saying a subject had been taken into custody for the shooting, then saying that subject released.
Minutes into Charlie Kirk's event on campus at Utah Valley University, after he tossed hats to the crowd, he began taking questions from the audience. Someone then fired a gun. The shot struck Kirk in the neck. Oh my God! The crowd ran for Kirk. Kirk was carried away. Roughly 2 hours later, President Trump posted on social media, Kirk was dead.
Good evening, I'm Jeff Bennett. Amon Navaz is on assignment. On the NewsHour tonight, the influential right-wing activist Charlie Kirk is shot and killed at an event in Utah. Poland and they take down Russian drones that violate Polish airspace, raising tensions across Europe and questions over the U.S. effort to end the war in Ukraine.
I think it's hard that Putin is mocking him.
And Judy Woodruff speaks with A-star Steph Curry and Martin Luther King III about their community.
Underneath the surface, we're doing the work that is hopefully meaningful and sustainable, no matter what voice out of Washington's coming out.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Israel targeted senior Hamas leadership in Qatar yesterday, launching a military strike on Doha. Hamas says its top leaders there were considering a U.S. proposal for a Gaza ceasefire, though they survived the strike. 5 lower-ranking members died in the attack. A Qatari security staffer was also killed. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke after the strike.
At noon today, I convened the heads of Israel's security organizations and authorized a surgical precision strike on the terrorist chiefs of Hamas. These are the same terrorist chiefs who planned, launched, and celebrated the horrific massacres of October 7th.
Einav Zangauer, the mother of the Israeli hostage Matan Zangauer, condemned Netanyahu for the attack on Qatar.
I am trembling with fear. It could be that at this very moment, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has essentially sentenced my Matan to death. Anyone who deliberately chooses to endanger my child's life is murdering him. Why does the Prime Minister insist on blowing up every small chance for a deal? Why?
World leaders condemned Israel's strike on Qatar, including France, Germany, Britain, and the European Union. Germany's Chancellor called
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.